Welcome to Lesson 2 about the Western Front and its impact on medicine. Please write down the title from the top of the page, and then your Connect quiz is to write down the odd one out for each of these 6 groups of words. So for example, with question number 1, you're going to look across, it says miasma, 4 humours or germ theory. So for that one you would write down germ theory, because miasma and the 4 humours were explanations for the causes of disease in the medieval period, and germ theory is from the 19th century. So have a go at numbers 2 through to 6. Either write this in your book or create a Word document and then save it in a history folder. So, what happened on the Western Front? What we need to do is understand a little bit about what was happening, the progress of the war. So the first picture shows what was happening between August, when war broke out, and then the beginning of early 1915, so about the first 4 months. And you can see on the map there, the Germans were slowed down by the Belgian army and they didn't get to Paris. They were aiming for Paris within 6 weeks. And also on the east side, the Russians moved much more quickly than they expected them to. The Germans had to send some troops to the east, and you can see that green arrow pointing at the top where it says to Russia. And then number 3, it says the French were beaten by the Germans in Alsace-Lorraine, but they held out at the Battle of the Marne. And you can see the River Marne here just above the box number 3. So you can see they're holding out. Where the blue line is, that's the French troops. By the 1st of September, you can see that the French armies are defending the battle. That's the Battle of the Marne, and 40 kilometers is the distance between the French armies and between the German army and Paris. So their big artillery can attack Paris. By the 8th of September, France have pushed back a little bit, so Paris is a bit safer. And then by early 1915, what we can see here is that British forces have come across, that's the red lines, and they're defending, pushing back. German forces have come through Belgium, so you can see the word above the first top green line says Ypres, Y-P-R-E-S, and that's one of the key places where we're going to look at what happened in the battles there. The French forces are the blue arrow. You can see the fortress towns, so the red squares, slightly further south. So you might remember from year 9 when we looked at Verdun and the battle there, and the Battle of the Somme where the British are. So you can see then the long pink line is the front line by early 1915. This map again shows the line of the trenches. So on this map it's the dotted red line, and then you can see the fortified towns, the main towns, and you can see the British flag there near the top of the map, defending to the north of the River Somme. The British held section of the line up at the top, and again you can see Ypres on this map here. So just checking, true or false with these statements. Can you write them down if you think it's true, and if you think it's false then correct it. So for example, this one, the Schlieffen Plan, was a German plan before World War I began, is a true statement, so you can write that one down. What you need to do here is click on the box, and it should open an 8-minute video about life in the trenches. If it doesn't work, there is a link that you can copy and paste into your browser in the notes section. So you'll need to come out of the main view, the slideshow view, and have a look in the notes section at the bottom. Once you've watched that, then have a look at this diagram, which I hope will come to the front of the slide. And can you draw your own version? Doesn't need to be a beautiful picture, just needs to be a version here to help you draw what the pattern of trenches in the First World War, looking at the back where the artillery is, far behind the line, the reserve trench, support trench, frontline trenches, and then no man's land at the front. This slide will help you to make an accurate drawing as well if you prefer this one to the one on the previous slide. You can see here again we've got the frontline trench, behind that is the support trench, behind that is the reserve trench. It's showing communications trenches, those also run between the other trenches, and then at the back the artillery emplacements. You can see also the dugouts shown on there, and it talks about the trenches being in a bit of a zigzag pattern to make them easier to defend. So please draw your own version of the trench. With this one, can you also draw this and label it? So this is showing a cross section now of a trench. You can see how deep it is, so that the men could walk along safely on the duck boards at the bottom. You see where the man is standing, and you can see things like the sandbags at the front and the dugout at the back that was shown on the previous slide. So draw your own version of this, please. What we're going to do now is have a look at a couple of sources. So you're familiar now with trenches, both what they look like sort of from a bird's eye view and also a cross section. This one was drawn sometime after 1915, so drawn by somebody who was in the war. Can you answer the two questions on the slide, please? So looking at this picture, what common features of trenches can you see? So for example, you might say, I can see in this picture, I can see communication trenches, and I can see that they are built in a zigzag shape. You might want to look as well, so the second question says, is there anything surprising? So you might want to look at the bottom of the picture where it's showing lots of brickwork, which we haven't seen bricks being used in the trenches so far. Once you finish those questions, move on to the next slide. Here is another photograph. This is a very famous photograph of the Battle of the Somme in July 1916. Again, answering the questions on this slide. So in this picture, source B, what common features can you see? So again, you might want to say, I can see the man on the fire step, the soldier climbing, looks like he's climbing up towards the top of the trench. That's what he's leaning on there, is the fire step, which you should have drawn in your other picture. Is there anything surprising here? Anything that is unexpected given what you know already? So have a look, what can you see that you haven't made a note of before, something that's different? And then maybe begin to have a think for question 3, why might not all trenches look exactly the same? So think about, for example, where on that front line it might be, what time of year it might be, who's built it, what the kind of ground that they are building those trenches on. Once you've written those answers, have a look at the next slide. For your demonstrate task then, this is a describe two features question that we're familiar with from our Anglo-Saxon paper, and this is how our medicine paper will begin. So remember, we start with feature 1, add a detail, feature 2, and add a detail. And then last of all, can you write down as many as you can of the dangers that you think this soldier might face in the trenches of the First World War?